Welcome to Breaking Sales, a podcast dedicated to helping you have tough, meaningful, and rewarding conversations with your prospects and clients. In meaningful, what we mean is these are the conversations you truly feel like you are the prospect or client's conversational peer. There's no anxiousness or uncertainty holding you back. You feel a sense of calm and confidence in asking the tough questions. You're not thrown off by the bad news, and you expect the prospect to think about and invest into the conversation as much as you do. On Breaking Sales, we use the filter of psychology and innate human behavior to deconstruct the many misleading sales approaches that actually work against your efforts to build trust and close the business. Let's get started. Here's a question. Have you ever thought about allowing or letting a conversation with a prospect or client simply come to you? You know, not feeling that awkward urge to steer or drive a conversation where you want it to go, and then feeling that anxiety and uncertainty because the conversation is taking a completely different direction. I spend a lot of time reviewing recorded calls with our clients, breaking down what works and what doesn't. And over the past 6 months, I've noticed the same pattern showing up again and again and again. This isn't the first time we've talked about it on this podcast. It's the moment a prospect shares a problem or challenge, and even the most seasoned professionals, people with 10 or more years of experience, immediately jump in to solve. They start sharing expertise, making promises, and demonstrating competency. And you can hear it. The sales professional's conversation pace increases. They often repeat themselves, and they intensify their use of filler words. You can actually hear and observe that they've stopped listening. It's so obvious. The telltale sign that you are trying to force or direct a conversation is absolutely congruent with the anxiousness that you feel. Today, Kristie and I are diving into why this happens, how to prepare so you can trust the conversation process, and what it really means to let a conversation come to you instead of trying to control where it goes. Let's jump in and see if we can help you minimize your nerves and conversation anxiety. Kristie, now that you and I have expressed ourselves in very creative ways about recording this Friday, let's get into the topic. And I do like the topic because it's just so prominent. So to give a little context to our listeners, Kristie and I and Pam, and we do a lot of film study. So our clients will record calls on an AI platform, and we will go in and listen. And so we get to hear the calls, the conversations, all the good nuggets and all the bad nuggets for anywhere between 40 minutes and 60 minutes. And we get to break that down with our clients. So we hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the things that I've noticed thematically over the past 6 months in particular is so few professionals allow the conversation to come to them. They're all hardwired, it seems, to force the conversation. And you can just hear it and you can pick up on it right away. So let's talk, Kristie, a little bit about allowing the conversation to come to us.
And so what do you mean by that, Dan?
A couple things I hear a lot, right? The prospect shares a particular problem that they're having, right? And they go into some detail on it. And then really quickly, right away, the seasoned professional, and I do mean seasoned, often 10, 15,
Absolutely.
20 years experience, they just jump right in right away to solve. They start sharing expertise. They start making promises and making commitments. And it's almost, I hate to say it, it's a little embarrassing. And I know that can come off a little bit judging, and I don't mean it to, but I think it's just more my passion because I know how hard it is to be in sales, and I know how hard it is to get appointments and build trust and to show up the best version of yourself. But then when you jump so quick to solve, it's like you're forcing the dialogue, you're forcing the direction, and more often than not, it never works out in your favor.
Yeah, I think the other side to that too is that's one avenue that it can take if it's being forced. And the other is what I've seen recently is they get forced into peppering lazy questions, leading questions,
Can you give me
closed-ended
can you give me
questions.
like a little example maybe?
Yeah, so they'll hear something in a conversation that potentially might be against what they actually want out of the conversation. And so then they'll pivot to, well, are you dealing with any technology issues? Or what issues are you having with service? Or have you had any issues? And they start to go into these just, I'm going to find something. Help me find something. And they're lazy questions. They're closed ended. They're answered with a yes or no. They feel leading. And if you're on the receiving end, it feels like someone's trying to get somewhere where they can find an opportunity.
Just because of the mood I'm in. So I'm going to go off on a tangent here. So here's the funny thing about what you just said on the big picture side. All right. And I hope our listeners are hearing this. Year after year after year, there's always two truths in sales, and I get tired of it. The number one truth in sales is that the national sales closing percentage is somewhere between 15 and 20%. Year after year after year after year. Doesn't matter if it's 2005, 2010, 15, 20, 25. I hear the same thing. And here's what I also hear. Whether it's 2000, 2010, 2020, whatever it might be. Oh, it's really, really hard out there right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. Selling's really tough right now. I can't think of a year where anybody ever said, hey, selling's great right now. This is the time to hit it hard. There's no uncertainty in the marketplace. Everybody's in a great mood. I mean, come on. You just get tired of hearing the same shenanigans over and over and over again. But let me go back to the original point, and this is my tangent. Has anybody ever just thought for a second, sat back, right, and said, if year after year after year, the same closing percentage exists of 15 to 20%, and everybody keeps selling the same way by leading with expertise and building rapport and being relationship.
And finding pain.
Right. Wouldn't someone eventually sit back and go, if those are the common themes and those are the common ingredients and they keep delivering 15 to 20%, maybe it's time to do something different. I don't know. If I could swear right now, I would. So I'm going to just say, call me blankety blank crazy, right?
Right.
It's like, do something different. Stop being a robot. So let the conversation start coming to you. And the first step in that is just start asking questions. Holy crap, right? Just be curious. Seek to understand. That's all you got to do. Stop leaping with your expertise and competency. It's nauseating. It's embarrassing.
Well, and the key part of what you said and the comparison of what we're seeing in film studies is ask the open-ended questions. Ask the questions where you're not trying to get to a certain answer, where you're not trying to control the person or find an opportunity. Be genuinely curious. Be objective in understanding deeper levels of what they're thinking, how they operate, how they make decisions, what they're experiencing, whether it's within your scope of work or not. Because that's the other thing. These conversations are going right to the area of expertise instead of really understanding the person sitting in front of them, who's a human being and has a whole lot of other responsibilities and things that they get excited about and challenged with beyond the scope of what some one service level partnership might be. And it's amazing. It's sad, quite frankly.
Yeah. Again, I do need to be careful, and I get it. I mean, I know how hard it is, again, to be in business development, to establish relationships and try to build them and ask powerful questions, right? It's not an easy game. It's not for the meek and mild. But at the same time, there's got to be some standards, right? There's got to be a high level of performance that requires more than just showing up and going off a feel. Hey, I'm really good with people. I'm going to get into sales. Well, great. Be good with people, but put some methodology, put some process, put some damn discipline behind it. Now you're playing with fire, right? This whole just showing up and, hey, I've made money before, or I've sold and I've been successful, and you know what? I don't need to do anything different. I'm just gonna, I got a knack for it. I just got this natural feel. Oh, you do you? Okay.
Yeah, it's what I've experienced is a lot of our clients and professionals that we work with, they want a conversation to feel natural. They want a conversation to have a certain flow, go with the flow of the conversation, go where the conversation needs to go. But then they get into this position when they're in the heat of the moment of the conversation where, because they potentially have gone in with, let's just go with the flow, it's actually working completely against that and feels disjointed. And it feels super selfish and it feels shallow. And it's this dichotomy of having to, figuring out, to your point, have a process, have a very deliberate, intentional, skillful advisor process for how you structure and conduct yourself in a conversation so it feels like it has flow. And that's not easy. That's not easy. And it does take that discipline, that learning, that practice, that intention. And to me, it all comes down to what they're doing before they even go into the conversation.
I will tell you this, and I know I'm stating the obvious, there's not a single highly paid professional out there as a dancer, as a musician, as an athlete, as a CPA, as an attorney, as a doctor, right, who doesn't invest heavily in preparation before it's game time, before they're on center stage. The prep is incredible, but yet when it comes to sales, for some reason, I think, oh, I'm going to wing it.
Or we don't prep the right things.
Right.
To be the best conversation, to go where it needs to go.
So letting a conversation come to you, right? There is a form of calmness that you have to have, and you do have to trust it. And I get it. It might take a few times to do it, but let the conversation just unfold, right? Let it just unravel. When there's silence, no need to fill it. Let it go, right? When they share something that they're struggling with or concerns them, ask questions. Just stay curious, right? You don't have to jump in the race car and try to sprint to the end. It doesn't make any sense. When you do ask a question, ask it. You don't have to repeat it. You don't have to give multiple choice answers at the end of it. Or you don't have to string it on with 2 or 3 more questions. I mean, where do we all learn to communicate? Just ask the question and let it go. Let the silence go, right? Those types of things. Let that conversation just unfold, and you would be surprised how it will come to you. So let's talk about the best way to do that. And Kristie, you and I talked about this. I think the best way for any of us to feel comfortable and trust allowing the conversation to unfold, all right, is really good preparation. Because the more we prep, the more confident and the more we're going to trust with whatever might happen in that discussion.
Yep, 100%.
So what are some of the things Kristie, that you coach, that you actually prep too, and that you coach.
It's all of the controllables. What am I thinking going into this conversation? What's my attitude? What's my mindset? What am I prepared and thinking that I might need to ask my questions, and making a list of what I need to really lean in on to try to understand about the person or the team or the organization, to dive deeper into how and if I can help and if they're ready for it. And then also preparing for thinking through, am I assuming anything that I shouldn't be assuming? Am I at risk of speculating on things because of things that I might have heard in the past, or what I might have seen in research, or what someone has said about this organization, that I've got to pressure test assumptions, not run with the assumptions? And that helps me also shape more questions. Thinking through what my triggers might be in a conversation and what would get me off my game, so I can think through how I'm going to shift out of that and not allow it to get me off my game.
Let's slow down there, can we?
Yeah.
All right. For our listeners, that's a huge one. All of you have these mental triggers where there is something in any dialogue with a prospect or a client that you will hear in the conversation, or you may observe in the conversation and or experience in that conversation. Any number of things that you will hear, observe, or experience that will cause you to label them as bad. And when you label them as bad, whatever the degree is, you will feel angst, hesitation, annoyance, agitation, and frustration. All right? That's human nature. You have to know right there and then, listeners, in that moment, you're out of the game. You are at your weakest. You are not a good version of yourself in that conversation. So, what would be an example? Hey, we really like our current provider. Hey, we're going to go RFP. Hey, we are thinking about doing X, and it does not include Y, which is what you do. Or, hey, can you just get us some numbers? Or, hey, what would you charge for this? Right? Any number of things, or some complete disinterest on the prospect's part when you're asking questions. They seem distracted, right? The list goes on. But those are a very standard, very common list of things that will cause anxiety, frustration, disappointment, or whatever it might be when a sales professional observes those in their discussion, right? So here's a great idea. And I do this, and I've had a lot of clients do this, and it's very helpful. If you find yourself going into a meeting where you can feel your hype inside, your anticipation inside yourself rising, right? A lot of anticipation. You're looking forward to the meeting. You're excited. Best thing you can do is get out a piece of paper, literally write down all the things that could be said or heard, whatever it might be, that are bad. Write them out so that you are actually seeing them on a piece of paper and you are thinking them through. What could this prospect or client say to me that might be labeled as bad? Or what might I observe from them that might be labeled as bad? But here's the next part. Then I want you to write out a list of questions next to each one that turns into whatever they said. So you may have defined it as bad, but now I want you to write out a list of questions that help you turn into and get clarity on whatever bad might be. Write out those questions. Next step, write out whatever you might hear or observe as good. And again, write out questions next to it to make sure you understand what the good is. If you want to lower your anxiety in a meeting, and if you want to lower the agitation or frustration or uncertainty or whatever it might be that you could feel, do that exercise. That should be added to your prep. It might take you 10 minutes, it might take you 15, it might take you 5, but it'll be worth every single minute you spend on it.
And other questions to think through preparation, in addition to the good or the bad that might trigger me and how I can lean into it, are Get to know the business questions. Get to know the person questions. Get to know what their present, past, and future have been in all of their experiences relative to business, team, role, and responsibility. Ask them about their strategies. Don't dive into the weeds. Don't dive into the weeds right away. And if you prep those questions, you may not ask all of them. That's the other thing. We can't get too attached to our prep.
Yeah, right.
Just because we prepped a question doesn't mean we have to ask it and force a question that doesn't make sense. There is a gut call on when or how or if you ask certain questions.
Yeah, you do need to read the tea leaves on that one a little bit. You don't want to exhaust your prospect.
Yeah, but if you prep all of the questions and you have those in mind going in, you will have a better process. You will be more authentic and curious. You will execute at a higher level. You will go deeper with your prospects. And you will leave them with a different experience than what they're experiencing with many, many out there that are leading to that low close rate. It does differentiate and leave with a different feel.
Yeah, another thing to think about is this, just in life, right? If you force a conversation with a family member, what usually happens?
I'm thinking of teenagers right now. Not good.
Yeah, right? If you force a conversation with your significant other and you try to dictate it, what happens? Nothing good, right? If you're dating and you force a conversation on your date and you're trying to dictate the direction of the conversation, what happens?
No more dates.
Right? There's so many examples in this world about just regular discussions and interactions that we have where you cannot force it. You have to let things come to you sometimes. But why in the hell do sales professionals think that they have to go in and dictate how, where, when, what direction the conversation goes? It's silly. It's absolutely silly. And I am not a believer in this feel thing. I think the feel thing's a hiding spot. Anybody says that they sell based on feel, it's because you don't want to prep. It's because you don't want to put the work in. Right? Feel? No. There's no feel in high performance when it comes to any other career. And there sure as shit isn't any feel when it comes to being a sales professional. Yeah. Can you tell sometimes when maybe you've asked too many questions? Sure, I got it. Can you tell sometimes when maybe that prospect truly is genuinely ready to hear maybe what you might have to share? Sure. Are there certain points in those conversations where their feel from a human to human standpoint matters? Absolutely, right? EQ.
Yep.
But don't use feel as your preparation. Remember what we talked about. Forcing conversations doesn't work with your teenagers, children. It doesn't work with your spouses, your prospects, or on dates. Yet somehow we think it will. The irony is that the harder you try to control where a conversation goes, the more unnatural it feels, the more anxiousness that you feel, and the less control you have. It can come off as desperation that your prospects can sense from a mile away. So here's your challenge. Before your next important conversation, spend 10 to 15 minutes writing down every scenario, good or bad, that might make you uncomfortable. Then prepare questions that turn into those scenarios so that you can turn them possibly into opportunities to go deeper and learn more. The more you prep, the more you can trust whatever unfolds in that discussion. You can let it breathe. You can be curious instead of anxious. The conversation will come to you when you stop chasing it. But first, you have to do the work to get out of your own way. Until next time, keep embracing the discomfort. It's the path to get better and truly achieving what you want.